Hi, thanks for joining me today. My name is Robert Chartier. I'm the broker of the Chartier Realty Group here in San Diego. My DRE number is 0117-3785. I'm going to talk a little bit about seller credits today. In terms of seller credits, if you're a buyer and you have a VA guaranteed loan, the seller can credit you up to 4%. If you have a FHA loan, the seller can credit you up to 6%, that's 6% of the purchase price, and on a conventional loan the seller can credit you up to 3% of the purchase price. Now on the conventional and on the FHA, the seller is absolutely not obligated to credit you a penny, so you understand that. With the VA, there's a little over a dozen costs that by federal law the military professional, retired or disabled military professional cannot pay for. That's fixed in concrete. So having said that, we almost without exception will get a very healthy, it's challenging to get a full seller credit, full 4% for VA, or a full 6% for the FHA, or a full 3% for a conventional. It all depends upon the market, how many multiple offers are coming in on a property, and there's many variables. Also the strength of the buyer, just the property configuration in and of itself, depending on what it may need. I mean, if the home needs a roof, paint, the windows are really bad, needs new flooring, carpeting, kitchens significantly outdated. It gives us a lot to bite into to get you a higher percentage of seller credit. But that being said, and that being so individual, and it varies from each and every specific property as far as what we can legitimately and negotiate for you and ask and feel is still a strong position to keep you in to get your offer accepted, for example. Certainly a case-by-case basis on both the properties as well as who's buying the property. If you're coming in with 20% down on the property, psychologically, you appear to be a stronger buyer, although we're passionate about military and we do VA military no-no purchases all the time. We do not do the loans. We are just the real estate company that facilitates the process of getting you accepted and getting you your escrow closed expediently. But the bottom line is each individual and each property has a unique combination of things and events and situations that come into play as far as how much of that percentage we're going to ask and request on your behalf for you after we've had the discussion with you and we've gone over the pros and cons of certain requests. So getting a good, healthy seller credit is really something that all buyers want to get, and we know no one is any better than us. We're not going to say we're the best. That's very self-serving, but we know there's no one that's better at us at doing that for a client. And also, that money can come from other places. It does not necessarily have to come from the seller. It can also come from the bank, for example. The banks have something called rebates, whether it's a brick and mortar bank like a Wells Fargo, US Bank, or any of the brick and mortars, Union Bank, or it's an actual broker. And there are certain banks, and this is something I'm not going to share in the video because this is proprietary information. I've said this many times, I'll say it again. This video is for the benefit of people that are consumers that are actually purchasing a home, or individuals that are selling their home. This is not a training video, and agents watching this trying to extrapolate some information from us, figure out how to work the market, are going to have no success here, because we're not going to offer anything for agents to learn how to do what took us years and decades to learn how to do. So bottom line is, if you're selling your home, there are ways for you actually to credit a buyer and have not a dime come out of your pocket. And if you're a buyer, basically the best place to get that money is from the bank. And now most everybody knows this, and even a rookie agent knows that. They should know that. And But here is the thing. It's which banks are offering the highest rebate. In other words, say the interest rate's at 3.5%. If you go 3.625 or 3.875, you go by quarter points. There is going to be a rebate, and it changes it changes 3 or 4 times a day, but that rebate is going to change as the interest rates change and fluctuate. So you want to go with a bank that overall generally is going to give you the absolute highest rebate. We have some pet banks that we know of. Again, I'm not going to share that on this video, but you can call me and I'll come over to your home and we'll talk about that if you're a buyer. And we can also talk about that if you're a seller, and how we do and how we structure these things, or how we facilitate the structure of these. We don't tell anyone where to get their mortgage money. That's actually a RESPA violation. We don't ever do that, but we'll give you 3 of the top banks to go to that we know are going to offer you the absolute highest amount of rebate for the minimum amount of interest increased. And that's the magic. So many times we've paid for every single penny of our clients' closing costs, where the sellers were, being obstinate or just we had so many multiple offers, they just didn't really have the need to give any concessions. And believe me, the markets, like it is right now, it's October 9th, 2012. We're in one of those markets right now where sellers are they getting so many offers, they're not necessarily in a position, if the offer is strong, to really need to offer much seller credit back. So how we counter that and to benefit our buyers, and if it's a VA, they don't have a choice, but if it's an FHA or conventional, and even with a VA, they can go up to 4%. So we always want them to pay more than just the minimum requirements. So what we do is we'll negotiate on your behalf, or we'll instruct you how to negotiate with the bank that you've selected and how to work that rebate. Now remember, I was in mortgage banking for 8 years. There's no agent out there that understands rebates any better than I do. I'm not saying anyone doesn't understand them as well as I do, but there is not one agent anywhere, I don't care in the country, forget about San Diego County, there's not an agent in the country that understands rebates better than I do. So I know how to structure those rebates and how to communicate with the bank, because I know the exact, pretty much down to the dollar amount that I'm going to need, and I know how to gauge that with the bank and either A, inform you, the buyer, how to negotiate that with them, or allow me to do my job. I'll go in and do it for you. It's not a problem. To me, I think it's part of my job, and I enjoy that. So if you need $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 in seller costs, either because you need them and you don't have the cash reserves, or you just are trying to get that amount of money back from the seller, or a seller credit, which would technically be a bank credit. It's all the same to you. It's all cash to pay your closing costs. We'll facilitate that for you and help you with that, and make sure that the increase in your interest rate is not going to adversely or negatively affect in a way that won't allow you to purchase your home the actual ratios or your qualifying ratios of your loan. There's a definite fine point and formula. The qualifying ratios, your cash reserves, your credit rating, all are going to affect how we're going to be able to structure and do that for you. So if you've got excellent credit, you've got great cash reserves, everything is just hunky-dory perfect, it's going to put you in the best position. But even people that have just sufficient credit to buy a home and have just enough reserves, cash reserves, to be able to buy the home, we can still help either A, instruct you on how to negotiate with your bank, or you can just allow us to do our job and we'll go in and do that for you. And then you have the final conversation with the bank on the interest rate, and they will tell you, hey, Robert talked to us, he told us, hey, we need $8,000 and this is what we need to make this deal go through and for you to close your escrow. Well, Robert had a conversation with us, and here's what we're going to need to do. We've adjusted your interest rate. This is what your new payment will be. Now, I'm not a bank. We don't do that anymore. We don't do loans, but this is the conversation you'll be having with your banker, and say, this is your new payment. It'll be here. This will be your interest rate, and at this interest rate, if we were to, quote unquote, lock it in today, because you have to lock it to get that rebate, otherwise it's floating, and floating doesn't work. So at the time, you need to lock that interest rate in at a guaranteed interest rate, number one. You always want to do that for a minimum of 30 days to be safe, and you'll know exactly the dollar amount to the penny of rebate you're going to get. That's how it's done. To us, we're on autopilot to do that. We do it with almost every single one of our clients, by the way. At least 8 out of 10 of our buyers, we're talking directly with the bank to make sure everything is structured correctly, and then of course you're going to have that final conversation with the bank so you understand exactly, you know, what they did, how they did it, and how I communicated with them to make sure we've served your highest and best interest, and in fact did get you a seller credit that doesn't have to come from the seller, from the actual bank. Do it all the time. We do it on almost every single transaction, as a matter of fact, because it just makes sense for people to do that. Why are you going to dig in your pocket and take an extra 10, 20, in some cases, depending upon the purchase price of the home, it can be $20,000, $30,000 if it's a $800,000-$900,000 home. If it's a, like say, a $250,000 to $450,000 home, you know, those rebates can be $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 as long as it doesn't exceed the 4% VA, doesn't exceed the 6% FHA, and doesn't exceed the 3% conventional. And of course, we're always very carefully monitoring and watching that. Also, the seller can give you XYZ amount of dollars, and they may. We'll do our best to get the seller to do that. Again, we know that no one does it better than we do to get the seller to give you a little money to make, you know, compensations or pay your closing costs. So you can do a combination of the seller giving you credit and the bank. And if you do that, your interest rate will be a little bit lower with the bank because you don't need as much of that rebate money. Every transaction is going to be different as well. I'm just giving you the overview. I'm giving you the big picture. And again, I'll make this statement. If you're an agent watching this, I hope this is absolutely new breaking news to you. If it is, you really need to go speak to your broker and get educated. And the purpose of this video is not to educate agents. But this is like really baseline information. This is absolute rudimentary that any qualified experienced agent should already know. So, but as a home seller or home buyer, you may not know this, so now you do. Call me if you have any questions. My name is Robert Chartier. I'm the broker of the Chartier Realty Group. I'm here to help you serve your highest and best interests and make sure that you get representation with the highest level of competency that's available in the business to serve your highest and best interest and give you all, not most, but all of the options that are available to you in your home purchase or to sell your property. And I work the same negotiation process the same way in the reverse osmosis for home sellers, because I usually get in touch with the seller's bank and we'll have some conversations, not to interfere with the buyer's agent, but sometimes we find that the buyer's agent may or may not have those skill sets. So